Welcome to the Drum History Podcast. I'm your host, Bart Vanderzee, and today I'm joined by Edith Habraken in Basel, Switzerland. Edith, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
So, today's topic is something that, to be perfectly honest, I there's a few of them that I feel like I don't know a ton about. It's for someone like me to be interviewing an expert on this. It's a little uncomfortable to be out of my comfort zone and talk about something I don't know about, but I think that's how you get better and how you learn things. So the topic of Basel drumming, Basler drums is very foreign to me. So I'm excited to learn about it from you. So maybe start by explaining what it is and then tell us about the history of it.
Yeah, okay. So the Basel drum, the drum style, the Basel drum is a drum with snares. It's a military instrument. And all the drum styles which are on the world, Scotland, America, Holland if you want, Switzerland, France of course. It's all military style, military drums. And yeah, Basel drum is also a military drum.
Gotcha.
If you want to know about the history of Basel drumming, you have to know where is Switzerland in Europe.
Sure.
Switzerland is in the middle of Europe, and in Switzerland, in the northwest, is Basel. Through Basel flows the Rhine. And I live near Basel, and if I look in my bathroom, I see the Rhine, which is Swiss. But if I look far away, I see on the left side France and the right side Germany. And the Rhine is the middle. And Basel is a border town to three countries, Switzerland, France, and Germany. And Napoleon, when he lost his war, it was in Germany. All the French drummers and the military were in Germany. And then they had to go back to France. Then they went over the river, or they went to Basel. It was a town near, that area. And then the drummers, some drummers stayed in Basel or stayed in south of Basel in France. And there the Basel drumming was developed.
Interesting.
That time. That is really Basel-like. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you imagine how that has gone, then after war, if you were a drummer at Napoleon's armies, then you have no work anymore.
Yeah.
Then what are you doing? You can't go back to France. You can't go to Basel. You have to stay, or you go back to France and you go back to the barracks. And then what are you doing there? I think you play drums with your colleagues, and then they play together. But there are no wars anymore, so they play something, and then they say, "Hey, look, I find something out. Do you want to try too?" Oh yes, it's good. But I can play this very, very fast. And you? So they had a conversation together. They find out the Basel drumming. And the retired people, they went back to their family in the villages or wherever. And they liked drumming. So they learned the young people drumming. And that's the development.
Yeah.
And what do they have to drum? Yeah, the military marches, the signals and so.
That's really similar to most styles of drumming, where starts military and then it gets, handed down over time, and then fast forward, people switch it over into the rudimental drumming, and then that turns into jazz drumming, and then rock drumming, and it just kind of keeps going down and down and down. And I also think it's neat how you talked about the geography of how France, Switzerland, and Germany, how that played such a big part of it, because that, again, as a guy here in America, I'm going to relate it to like people in New Orleans with jazz, how it was kind of a bunch like a big mixing of different cultures, which led to new styles. But it's interesting how it has the military angle on it with this. Now, how would you describe the style of drumming? Because we, as we heard, and I know you listened to it, which I'm honored to have you listen to it, the episode that was pretty recently with Josh Harmon about the history of French drumming, where he talked about Napoleon wanting they wanted there to be very ornate playing. How would you describe this type of drumming, the Basel drumming?
The traditional Basel drumming, yes, it has a lot of elements. It's really very rich. And first, there are the figures. The Basel drumming has figures. You can't find them at the rest of the world. Yeah, that's the first thing. Okay.
And what does that mean? Can you explain that a little bit more for, again, a guy who's, I'm a drum set rock drummer. Like, what does that mean?
Yes, I think I can explain that. Every drummer knows a 5-stroke roll.
Mm-hmm.
The Basel people play this 5-stroke roll, but they play a flam at the beginning. So the first beat is a flam.
Gotcha.
And then they make within this 5-stroke roll a crescendo. So that's one figure, and you don't find anywhere else a 5-stroke roll with flam, because it is so unpractical.
Yeah.
Why do you want to play that? I don't know.
But does that go back to what we found out in that French drumming episode about when the music was written, it was just created to be very ornate, and it was just very flowery, I think is how Josh put it in that previous episode, of just that style in general was to just be, why not just go above and beyond with the embellishments?
Yes, exactly. And there are more figures like that. So the whole Basel drumming is an ornamentation style. Nothing is normal. Nothing. You can't find normal 8 notes in Basel drumming. They always ornament it with a flam or with a double. And this double, it's very interesting. They play a left tap and a left flam, and then a right tap and a right flam. So you hear 16th, but notation is in 8 notes, and the left tap and left flam, and then right tap, right flam. It's so unpractical too. If you want to march with that strike, it's difficult.
Yeah,
but it's a great figure.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then, so you said it was basically taught. You would learn this style from the drummers who came before you. So it's been carried down through, I guess it would be through tradition over all these years, right? I mean, it would be one person going to the next. They would teach the younger drummers, and then obviously, I'm sure things were written down over time. But I like when that happens, when it's so powerful and so traditional that it's taught through many generations.
Yes, and it grew up, so it began somewhere, and more continued, and new strokes, new figures. Yeah, from generation to generation. Yes,
absolutely. Now, why don't we talk a little bit about the construction of the drum, if that's okay? Because obviously it would be rope tension then. So who would be making these drums?
I can imagine it were woodmakers.
Yeah.
Woodworkers.
Sure. As far as drum heads go, I assume it would be just they would do the same thing with calf and goat and people who had livestock and would say, now we need drum heads. I guess that would probably be a similar thing there as well.
Yeah, I think so too. With the perkament. The perkament is also calf. Or cow or whatever.
Interesting. But modern days, so we can kind of talk about then and now, because in those days they were actually typically, I mean, these were, they were used in the military. I mean, they were military drums, so I'm sure it was created. But at what point? So, was there a point in history where, kind of like with in America, there's marching, there's fife and drum, there's marching drummers where it really hasn't been used by the military or in war in quite some time. I think since for us it would be like the Civil War in the late mid-late 1800s. Was there a point where in European history where these drummers became completely out of date? Because I imagine it would go further than Napoleon. Like it would probably last, a while longer that there were really drummers in the military who were signaling and things like that. When did that really, do you know when that actually really stopped and it became more a tradition thing and for show? It was less practical and used in the military. Do you know when that would have been?
After 1820.
Okay. And then what was that? What was in 1820? I should probably know this, but
about 1818, Napoleon lost the war.
Okay.
And after that, Europe was reorganized, and you find the countries, you find them today. That was the beginning. And yeah, then at 1850 and farther, so until 1900, clubs started, clubs and associations and so on.
Okay.
And all these clubs had drummers. And that was the point from the change from military to the population.
Got it.
So if you had a gymnastic club, they had a group of drummers who belongs to them. That's
interesting. And what do you mean, like a gymnastics? Like, explain that a little bit. Because for me, when I think gymnastics, I think like moving your body, like jumps and things. Okay, so we're talking about the same thing. I was like, how does a drummer work with that?
Yeah, I don't know, but they had it.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's really funny. Also, orchestras, symphony orchestras, they had a group of drummers.
Okay, sure.
I think they needed that to identify themselves.
Okay. Meaning that like they would each have their own sound for this group. Like they would have their own, drummer who would identify, group 1 versus group 2.
That was a little bit early. I think that is later on.
Okay, I see.
After 1900.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, and I obviously don't know. My European history needs a little brushing up, but I appreciate you walking me through all of this.
Yes, but I understand you.
Yeah.
I wrote my book about the Basel drumming, and I had to go in this history, in this war history, and Napoleon, and so on. So it is, like you said before, you learn with the things you do.
All right, now let's fast forward then a little bit and get to more, you said kind of into the 1900s. It became more similar in America, and I'm sure around other countries, with the tattoos and stuff. It became more for show, obviously. They're not using it in the battlefield because that just became, obviously, warfare became much, much, much more advanced than what it was with drummers on the field and signaling things. So throughout the 1900s, then what was going on with this art form of Basel drumming?
So in Basel and area, you had a lot of drummers who loved drumming and who loved it, to teach it, to repair drums. And then there was the beginning of a club in Basel. And that was one club. And they had a discussion, big stuff together. And then half of them, they had problems, social problems.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there was one club, and it was very nice, but they didn't like each other anymore. There were problems with drumming and with interpretation, and I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
they had social problems. So half of them started a new group. Then there were two groups, and then actually, and so on. There were two groups, but the second group also split in two. So you had three clubs, and the first club split into two, and so grew. You got a lot of clubs in Basel.
Interesting. So you're sort of answering something that I'm thinking too of, like, I mean, so Basel, drumming is very important there. I mean,
yes.
And Basel drumming is only, this sounds so stupid because I'm sure the answer is yes, but Basel drumming is only in Basel, Switzerland, right? Like
yes.
So the style, because I think I was confused early on with thinking it was more of a style of drumming that could be done. Like if I play thousands of miles away from you, am I playing Basel drumming, or am I, you know what I mean? Like, or is this really, you have to be in the town of Basel? And does that make sense? Like,
yes. Yeah. It is exactly what you say. So the Basel drumming is not Swiss drumming. It's not from the country. It's really from Basel. And if you want to learn Basel drumming, you have to come to Basel. And that is so special. That's the reason why I emigrated to Basel. Because of the drumming. I wanted to learn that. And I saw the drumming is not only drumming. There is more behind it, and I want to learn that. I want to know that, what it is. And then I saw the carnival. Then I joined. I got the opportunity to play with them at the carnival. And at the carnival, I thought, this is only 3 days and 3 nights. That is not possible. It must be more behind it. I want to be a year in Basel. And then, I worked a year at the drummers fabric, at the drum maker. And that's why I live in Basel, because of the drumming. It is so special, Bart.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. And Basel has 180 inhabitants, and one person is playing drums or has played the drum or whatever, and they know what is drumming. They know the Basel drumming. They walk behind the groups and they know what they are doing.
Wow.
Incredible. Yeah. So I come from Holland, and if I play the drums in Holland, they say, nice, very good. But here, they know what you are doing.
Interesting.
They can say the first part was very complicated, and the last part was very sweet or virtuous or whatever, and they have a meaning about it.
Wow, man! I don't think there's not many places in the world that are like that, where it's like such a drum. It almost seems like there's certain cultures in and I've never been to Africa, but where drumming is as important in, like, you see videos or read about like certain tribes where drumming is at the core, or Native American here, where drumming is at the core of it. It's more than just an instrument. It's That's so cool. I mean, in Basel, does drumming, is it taught in school for children pretty young, like as kids would play soccer and other things, which I'm sure they do there as well, but is it a pretty important part of the school system?
No, actually not.
Interesting.
But Basel is a mecca for drummers.
That's awesome. That's so cool. All right, so paint us a picture. Like if you're walking down the street, are there people walking around with drums on a regular basis? Do you hear drums kind of playing throughout the day, like people practicing? Are there a lot of music? Are there a lot of drum stores and manufacturers there?
Yes. Exactly how you say it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really exciting. When I was working at a drum fabric with a drum maker, then once the postman came, he brought the post, and then he bought 2 pair of sticks.
So the postman is a drummer. It seems like everyone's a drummer.
Or another anecdote, I was at a dentist, and we talked a little bit, and at the end of the history, I sold him my drum, and he repaired my tooth.
Wow. So drumming is like a currency. You can trade drums.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Dream Cymbals. Dream Cymbals is continuing the Tasting Tour 2021 with a couple new dates I wanted to let you guys know about. Saturday and Sunday, November 20th and 21st, they'll be at Earth Shaking Music in Atlanta, Georgia. And Saturday, November 27th, they'll be at Portman's Music Superstore in Savannah, Georgia. If you haven't heard, they're going to have a lot of cool cymbals in store. They're going to have a member of the Dream Team on site, and they'll be doing the recycling program. So if you're in Atlanta or Savannah on those dates, go check it out. So are there like drum set players around there, or is it very much a traditional, rope tension Basler drum? Or do you find people sitting there with a bass drum, a snare, a tom and a floor tom and cymbals, or is that not as common there?
You find, of course, there are drummers and drum set players, of course, but that is normal. It's not special. Special are the Basel drummers, who are around.
Got it.
You see them, you feel them, and the drummers, some drum set players can also play the Basel drum, and some Basel drummers play drum set too.
Gotcha.
It's all possible.
Yeah, that's interesting though, because it's it seems like the Basel drummers though are not that the drum set players aren't, but they're like very much they love the tradition, right? Like such as yourself very much enjoys the traditional background of it all. Are there still clubs and groups, like you said, of different groups of drummers who work together? What would be some of the names of them?
There are a lot of clubs, and the names of them are mostly in dialect.
Okay.
So I can tell Alkfressene, it's my club, Narabassi, Junterusli, Vloederi, Wetstijklieke.
Got a beautiful accent. I don't understand any of them. So, all right, why don't you run us through a little bit about what it entails, how to get into a club? Do you have to audition? What it's like? Do you guys get together, every week? Tell us about the club, how that all works.
Okay. So, children who want to join a clique, they are perhaps 8 years old, then they know somebody of that club, or they know it because of an advertisement. And then they join the club and they decide if they want to play drum or piccolo, the pipe. And if they want to drum or piccolo, they have lessons once a week. Then they learn it in a group. in the second year, they are in the next group. And after 3 years, you can join the club at the carnival on the street.
That's great. Wow. And then as an adult, doing this, a professional drummer, what does that entail? How often do you guys get together? And is it kind of a social thing as well?
Yes, it's a very social thing. But as an adult, it's not the same. As an adult, you join a drum school. There are several drum schools, and then you learn Basel drumming there, and then you join a clique.
Cool. Sounds fun. Do you get many adults who are drummers, let's say, but do you get many adults who want to come in and learn this style and join a club or does it typically start as a child?
Yeah, typically start as a child.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm out of luck. Don't move to Basel is what you're telling me. I guess you got to start young. And we'll talk about your background here in a little bit because I want to learn more about how you obviously are, quite the prolific drummer as well. But so can you, before we do that, can you explain, because I think there might be, I don't want to say confusion, but like, what's the difference between a Basler drum and Basel drum? Is there any?
Basler, that is German. That's the German language.
Okay.
Or Swiss German language. No, German. Swiss German.
Got it.
Yeah. And Basel drum, it's easier to pronounce for the English-speaking people.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And for me, it's easier too, Basel drum.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely easier. Well, that's a simple answer to that. Modern days, if people come to Basel, what are the drums? Like your personal drum must be very special to you, right? Like I'm assuming you have some, one or many of these Basel or Basler drums. What is your collection of these drums like?
I have 40 drums.
That's awesome. What are they made of? I mean, are they typically wood? Are they typically metal? Are they all rope tension?
They are very different, but it has to do with that I also play on stage with my drums.
Yep.
All these 40 drums are my personal drums.
Yeah.
But my concert drum, which I used a lot, was a golden drum. Of course, not real gold.
Yeah.
But my golden drum, and it's a very beautiful drum. And the calfskin is still on it.
Wow. What year is it? When was it made? Do you know?
I think 1998.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So from what I've seen online, there's a museum of Basel drumming. Are there many examples of the original early, 100+ drums, 200-year-old drums? Are there a lot of them still in existence that can be seen? And do people still use any of them, or are people typically using, more modern drums?
Modern drums.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen online, you can get them. I believe I saw some that were being made with like carbon fiber, and there's aluminum. Yes. Have you ever used the carbon fiber? I feel like that's not as traditional as a wood drum, but
no, because I don't like a light drum.
Really?
I want to have weight on my body.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense because you can feel it.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what would you say is the biggest event? There is, I'm pretty sure there's a big one that happens at least once a year. What is the biggest event that happens? And why don't you tell us about that a little bit more? I think you touched on it before with the 3-day event, but when is it? Because some people may live close enough that they want to come and visit it, but what is the big event for Basel drumming?
That is the big event, these 3 days and nights.
What's it called?
Fasnacht.
Okay.
So it's in the winter, in February or March, and you also have it in the States to tribe the winter out, to get the winter out.
Mm-hmm.
And this celebration is also in Basel, and that has a very, very traditional way of going through these 3 days at night. So it begins on Monday at 4:00 in the morning, and the whole town begins with the same march. All these clubs with the same march, and they walk through the darkness, and all the lights are going out. So it's really dark in town, and all the clubs have small lanterns on their heads and one very big lantern with them.
Gotcha.
That are the lights, and these lanterns, it's like an art how it's painted.
Yeah, the masks are
and they have mask and costume.
Everyone who's listening should just Google. If you Google, for an American listener or whatever, Carnival of Basel, Basel, you'll see these masks that are, I guess it would be comparable, kind of like Mardi Gras, but not really.
Yes, Mardi Gras.
Yeah, but this is even, this is like, these are, some of them are kind of scary looking. They're extreme. This is unbelievable. What a huge production. I'm sure it's amazing to be there.
It's really amazing. You really have to come to see it. You will not believe it.
Wow. When is it typically during the year?
It's every year at another time.
Okay. Just towards the end of the winter?
I will, yes. So I will send it to you.
Yeah, please do. And I'll share it in case, someone's geographically close enough. And if, because of current COVID things, we can make it, people can go there. But was it affected? Did it happen in 2020?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was awful, terrible, horrible. It was 2-3 days before the carnival was beginning. We heard that it will not go on.
Wow, that's tough. I'm sure people,
that was really hard.
I bet people prepare for this the entire year. These masks, and it's just man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And for the lantern, you pay $4,000.
Oh, wow.
For a club with only, population who pays it.
Jeez, that's a hit.
It's really tough, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that $4,000, they get to use the same one that rolls over to next year. I would hope that it happens this year in a couple of months.
Yeah, we think so.
Yeah. Wow. What about drumsticks? What type of sticks are typically being used? Why don't you talk a little bit about drumsticks?
The sticks in Basel are very thick. And the weight of the sticks are about 70 gram. I don't know how that is in American sizes.
Sure. Yeah.
Then the tip of it is round. That is very special. That is round. They are quite short.
Really? Why is that? Why would they be shorter than usual marching sticks?
I think because of the ornamentation style. You have to be fast. You have to play fast and piano. And you also have to play very loud. So the dynamics are very extreme. And then you need the round tip to get a volume, to get a sound.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the drum, the drum of Basel is also very interesting because it's not a military drum. The military drums are smaller, a little bit bigger as a snare drum. And the Basel drum is much bigger.
That is interesting. Is that because obviously military drums served a purpose as being on the battlefield and being smaller and, you're moving around with it, whereas the Basel drum is more for performance where it's bigger and you're not running around on a battlefield with it?
I think it's the point from the change from military to the population.
Got it.
Yeah, that they say, yes, now we want something else. We want another drum. We want our own drum.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the way. And the tempo of the Basel drumming is very low. It is 80 till 90 beats in a minute instead of 120.
That is slow.
And one reason for that is the drum, because you can't really march with such a big drum. Then you have a costume and you have a mask. Then you have 3 days and nights you have to drum.
Yeah. That's a lot. Wow.
And in the breaks you drink a little bit alcohol.
Of course, yeah.
You don't sleep enough. So that are all reasons why the tempo of the Basel drumming is very low.
Interesting. It's practical. It's like there's a reason. It's because you're going to drink and you're not going to sleep and you're going to have a big giant mask on, and that makes perfect sense. Now,
yeah.
Outside of that, the big carnival, the big festival, throughout the year, I imagine there's performances that happen outside of that, correct?
Yes, you are right. Yeah, there are a lot of concerts before the carnival. And at these concerts, the level of the Basel drumming is really high. The most virtuous drummers play, the most virtuous clubs play. Clubs can prepare them very exactly for the perfect performance on stage.
Yeah, I'm sure it's... do you get... If you're not up to snuff or you're not practicing, if you're not doing as good of a job as you can you be cut from a group? Can you be asked to leave, or do people just not do that?
That can happen, yes, but it's, of course, that's a social problem and it's very difficult.
Yeah, of course.
Because perhaps one drummer who doesn't play very well is painting the lantern.
Sure.
So he's important for the club. So they can't throw him out.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, I think I have a much better understanding about all this, and I think hopefully the listeners have, had a peek into this different, which I think is pretty different from the way it is around here, with how important and impactful. And I think there's a lot of marching drummers who obviously, rudimental drumming and marching is their life, but maybe they should come to Basel and perform. And do you ever get people who join these groups who are not? Have you ever come across an American person who has made it into one of these groups and lives there? Does that ever happen?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Great.
There are foreign people who knows it, most professional drummers who knows it. And if they really, really like it, they join a group.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you don't have to join a group to join the carnival. You can also come to the carnival and you have to wear a mask and a costume and you have to have a drum and then you play.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like such a good time. I'll find some videos online and share them on social media of some performances and some of the masks and things when your episode comes out. And I think people will enjoy it. But all right, so as we kind of wrap up the episode here, why don't we talk a little bit about you and your background and, things you've done and are doing and where people can find out more about you. So, if people aren't familiar with your background, tell us about you.
About me? Oh, that's the most difficult thing. I'm born in Holland. And when I was 8 years old, I started to play drums in the little village where I lived. And I was very, interesting in drumming. And when I was 18, I studied classical percussion in Amsterdam. And there I met the Basel drumming. They didn't know what it was. And then I was looking for contact with Basel, and my wish to go to Basel grew. Now I'm a professional drummer, marimba player. I love playing performances. I give concerts, but actually more performances. I love that. With percussion, drums, marimba. I have a percussion school, a marimba and percussion school with 100 pupils.
Wow.
Yeah, 25 years next year.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Congrats. That's pretty unbelievable. And I think from doing a lot of these interviews and talking with a lot of people, it's also a very male heavy, instrument. And I think it's very cool that you're doing a lot as a female drummer. You stick out in the, and are kind of representing very well for other female drummers, which I think is important because people need to see, other people like them to know that they can do it,
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a lot of other female drummers in your school, or is it a lot of young men?
A lot of young men.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we have about 10, 15 girls.
Okay.
But perhaps it depends on me. Perhaps I'm more a boys teacher.
I don't know. I think drums in general, I do see it changing though. And I think there's a lot of, it is good to be inclusive and have men and women and anyone who wants to play of, all different cultures and stuff like that. So, wow, congrats on 25 years. That's a long time for any business, to be running.
And when you can find me is on the website, edithhabraken.ch, or my school, it is smeh.ch.
Okay. And I'll put those in the description so people can find it. And Edith's last name is spelled Habraken, for easy access to finding her. And the school again was smeh.ch. And you yourself, your website, I'll say, is habraken.ch.
Yes.
And man, this is just such a good. I'm so glad to finally get you on the show, because we've been talking for I don't know how long. It's been a long time, but I should have done this earlier. I want to give a thank you to Frank Denage for connecting us. He's in the Netherlands, and he sent me a message in 2020 at some point, and just kind of made me aware of you and how great you are. So thank you to Frank for connecting us. And again, Edith, thank you for doing this. This has just been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bart. It was really great to be in your show. And I hope you learned something about the Basel drumming. Yeah,
I learned a ton. And I just think, again, and you sent me a picture of your setup on you've got a very nice... you're in your living room, and it's pretty late. It's 11 o'clock at night now that we're wrapping up the interview here. So I think I thank you for taking the time to do it. And Edith and I are going to be doing a bonus episode here shortly that you can check out if you go to drumhistorypodcast.com, and there's a little red button at the top that says become a patron, which will take you to Patreon, a couple bucks a month, and you can get all these bonus episodes. So Edith, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. You're welcome.
If you like this podcast, find me on social media at Drum History, and please share, rate, and leave a review. And let me know topics that you would like to learn about in the future. Until next time, keep on learning.